wrote in response to the tragedy of fear being a cause to shoot the unarmed. It's called The Blood of Arms. I started it just before Easter a few years ago, and by the time I was done, it had reached Easter morning. It's called The Blood of Arms, and it tells a true story. Everything I say actually happened. I was living here. This was my house in Newtown, Connecticut. And over in this area over here is where what I'm about to describe had happened. That photo was just taken a couple years ago, but what I'm about to tell happened back in the autumn of 1981. The Blood of Arms. There was a knock on our front door from a longtime family friend. He informed my stepdad to be aware of a suspicious car parked near our property's end. We were living in Newtown, Connecticut, on a street by the name of Swamp Road. It was nighttime, and the cause for concern was where my stepdad's equipment was stowed. A ribbon of forest was the only barrier to where his business tools were kept. It was isolated and dark enough that stealth could succeed, whether or not we slept. My dad took an unloaded rifle to investigate the report, hoping the fear of its presence would prevent any contact resort. He saw someone removing a headlight and told the person to stand. To his surprise, another stood too, and they called his bluff to the weapon at hand. We heard him yell, so I ran out to check and saw the three in a fight. The .22 Winchester lay on the ground as my stepdad was headlocked in plight. I picked up the gun and ran in the house, intent on getting the bullets, but my mother became a fierce blocker to ensure that trigger had no purpose to pull it. Thank you, Mom. I returned without weapon to help with the fight. With my firewood chopping strong hands, broke the nose of a poor thief for a light. Stop. Freeze. Before we continue, before I tell more of that night, had I shot him there instead, my life would not have led to what I now write. I would have been a killer, guilty of what the penal code may have excused. I would have killed a young man because the tool was too easy to use. Even if he should not have been stealing, he did not deserve to die. As for the struggle that ensued, the very gun was the reason why. They didn't know the gun was unloaded. They only knew he didn't shoot. And the perceived threat to their lives was at their struggle's root. I can say this with confident conviction, as a man who had a gun held to my chest. The awareness that death is possible will make one bring out all their strengths best. The excuse that I feared for my stepdad's life may have kept me from juvenile hall, but the very presence of the gun was the root source of the brawl. Without it, they would have just fled, without worry of being shot if they tried, from being poor brothers who needed a headlight, as worthy of death they could have been described. We found out who they were from friends who told of two brothers across their street who needed to go out of state to get medical care without fear of the heat. Ponder this reality. Ponder it deeply and well. Lack of empathy, and that alone, would have been a portal to hell. Not only for the family who would have been slain, but for my own and my future as well. I need you to really chew on that, not spit it out with hasty reply. The gun itself created the reason there was excuse to make the fearful die. I need you to really chew on that, not spit it back with hasty remark. The existence of a lethal tool caused fear that fought its uses embark. Instead of two brothers fleeing shamefully for being nothing more than thieves, they were forced to fight for their lives, trapped by behavior whose cause goes unseen. I need you to really chew on that. It happens more often than you think, especially in law enforcement, where fear excuses a shell casing's clink. Lack of empathy is impairment of vision, like we cannot see ultraviolet light. To say that what we're unaware of doesn't exist might sound convincing, but isn't right. War is for the lazy, too weak to employ their faith. or too unloving to listen, who in their egos feel more safe. On this day of resurrection, just after midnight, California time, in remembrance of the homicide of my mentor, I compose this moonlit rhyme. On this holiday of the resurrection of who was hailed as the life and the way, we must remember it is by our behavior, not the empty things we say. Jesus forgave even his killers. Are you one who says you believe he's the light? On this day of risen Jesus, hail today with a sacred glow. If we believe he is the way, the fruits of love our behavior will show. Happy Easter, my brothers and sisters of life. I wrote that April 1st, 2018.
Oh,
So,
Wow,
wonderful insight.
that was beautiful. Thank you.
thank you. So I have one more. This one's called, oh, and I brought that out and shared the hell out of that when